We are in a 2023 Mini Countryman Cooper S Untamed Edition, and this is a car we've had for a year now. We've put almost 14,000 miles on it, and we are here to tell you about what that was like over the past year. This is Gabe. Welcome to MotoringFile. So, as we drive through Chicago, essentially here, I thought it would be great. Last day with this car, and we've written a lot about it, but let's just wrap it up. Let's just talk about what this car has been like over the years, over the, I should say, year, and over the thousands of miles we've put on it. I think one thing that's really interesting is as we approach the U25 Countryman's launch, which is really coming up soon, but won't be in the US until roughly a year from now, which is a little while still. You realize how much that car's grown. You realize how smaller the R60 was, and where this car, the F60, is in terms of size. It starts to feel like it might be the sweet spot, which of course is a shame because it's going away. Of course, the Aceman will ultimately come to market. It's unclear if it's coming to the US right now. That car will be quite a bit, well, it'll be smaller. It'll have similar interior space as the R60, not as big as this, which means, again, this car has this really interesting space that it occupies from a size perspective that really nothing in the Mini model lineup will have. So I think that's one interesting point here as we kind of look at this and think of the future as well as the past year we've had with this car. I think for one, you know, it's also interesting because this is probably the biggest volume seller for Mini USA at the, you know, roughly $35,000 to $40,000 price point. You get all four. Of course, it's a Cooper S. That name will be going away. It'll be just called a Countryman S in the future. 192 horsepower. It's fast enough. Of course, this has the 8-speed Aceman. So the transmission is smooth and it is fairly crisp, but it's not as crisp as the JCW tune of it, or, you know, they're probably different mechanicals. There's no manual, of course, in this car. It works, I would say, as you would expect. Mid mode is comfortable. I'd love to see a little bit more of an aggressive, of course, shifting algorithm and times, and certainly more aggressive throttle mapping. I mean, that's blanket statement across all the Mini range, including JCWs. So let's talk about a couple head-to-heads real quick. For one, this against the JCW Countryman, this is a Cooper S. 192 horsepower versus 306, $5,000 difference. No brainer. The JCW wins over this car. Hate to say it, but true. Second, if you look at the Clubman's over 200 pounds lighter than this car. Pretty much the same utility. You're not going to pack it to the ceiling every day. That car wins again because of the lightness of the utility, which is basically the same. It's faster. It feels more eager in every way, especially around corners. And in general, I think personally, wagons always beat crossovers. They're just way cooler and way more rare. That car would definitely win over this as well. And then finally, and this is a weird one, but a standard Countryman Cooper S over the Countryman Cooper S Untamed Edition. The Countryman S also wins over this, primarily because the name Untamed is one of the most embarrassing names I've ever seen from a manufacturer. It's only beaten by the Untold Edition, which is the Clubman version of this car. And, you know, they're cringy. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. If you're an English speaker or a native English speaker, you recognize that word is never used unless it's dripping with sarcasm. That's what this is. I mean, everybody who gets in this car basically makes fun of it because of the name, which is not what Mini intended. But that aside, I think one of the things about this car that's so interesting is just its adherence to the Mini formula, which is a relatively small package, but maximizing what's inside of it from a utility standpoint. You know, as much as you can with the modern regulations of automobiles, this car does it. It retains sort of the funky Mini aesthetic and vibe. It drives, I would call it interesting. It's literally just an interesting thing to drive versus like literally all the other small SUVs that are around me that I can see. It is, in a lot of ways, it lives the brand ethos effectively for this time period. Maybe more so than the new one. You know, this is a smaller car, and I think in retrospect, this may be a bit of a sweet spot for the brand as we look back on it. So as you think about this car, and if you're looking at it buying new, or if this is down the road and you're looking at this potentially buying used, you know, I think you're gonna have a hard time talking yourself out of a JCW if you can find one, because the cost difference, the price difference is not that great compared to the performance difference. And it's not just the power, it's the brakes. The brakes in that car are phenomenal. The suspension's been recalibrated. The whole thing just feels more special. But it's not to take anything away from this car. This is truly a trouble-free, easy to use, own, operate vehicle in the modern sense. I mean, I've probably put 90,000 miles on Countryman and Clubman of this generation. Same, you know, same platform, same technology, etc. I think I've had two problems. One was a seat tether that came undone, which was easily fixed, and a rear door, right rear door, that I think somehow was the locking mechanism got stuck, and it was easily fixed by the dealer. That's it. I mean, that was the only two issues in about 90,000 miles of these cars over many years. So in my experience, this is a very trouble-free, easy to own and operate vehicle. It does take premium unleaded. I mean, that's a typical thing for all minis, so a little bit more cost there. But from an MPG standpoint, I am almost at 28 miles per gallon, and I am, as you can see, in the city often. And I don't drive it moderately, you could say. So it does well from an efficiency standpoint. And of course, you know, from a fun to drive standpoint, in my view, based on other small crossovers, I think it's at the top of that range. So what are we looking at? We've got 14,000 miles in this Countryman Cooper S, and it has really excelled at pretty much everything we've thrown at it. You know, it's not as sporty as the JCW, and there's no getting around that. It's not as sporty as a Clubman, and there's no getting around that. But if you're looking at a Mini that's going to be your daily, that's going to be your car that, you know, takes kids, dogs, luggage, everything, and doesn't have a problem with it, you know, it's effortless to sort of own and operate. It's hard to beat this new Countryman, this 2023 Countryman. And of course, the F60 ends production in 2023 as a 24 model. And so, and that's it. And we move on to the U25, which of course we know is about 7-8 inches longer, probably a lot heavier, or a little bit heavier at the very least. And it'll be a different car, which really comes back to why I think this car is so special. This is a car that has plenty of utility. It's got plenty of space, and yet it retains that sort of, you know, that small package that really connects it to that Mini ethos. You know, when we think about the cost, it's a $45,000 car. It needs to feel premium, not just in how it drives and how it looks, but how it is to own. And this car does it. And it's not so often we can say that about Minis. This car and the cars we've driven, again, with about 90,000 miles, have proven themselves as premium products that are built well, that are engineered well and engineered to last. And I think that's something that is overlooked often when we talk about, you know, the used car, I'm sorry, the constant barrage of new car reviews. We can actually tell you through our own experience, through those miles, that this car is well built and it does last. Now, what is it like to own? Is it fun? It is, and we've talked about that. I mean, this car is enjoyable to get in every day. You know, is it a JCW? No. Is it a Clubman? No. But for what it is, I challenge you to find another small crossover that's this fun to drive, fun to look at, and fun to even be in. You know, it's a car that just sort of exudes emotion and attitude. And unlike the name, which is cringy, that's not cringy. It's not cringy to have that vibe. It's cool. It's fun. And ultimately, you know, if you're going to have a car, you might as well enjoy it. And if it can deliver all of the utility that this car does, then it really, in our view, checks all the boxes for a daily driver. So again, if you like this video, please like it. Please subscribe to the channel. We've got a ton more videos coming. We've got a ton of videos in the archives as well. A lot of old stuff. We've got a bunch of new stuff coming with the next generation, and a lot of unique and exclusive content you're only going to find on MotoringFile. So once again, this is Dave from MotoringFile.